Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video on the YouTube. We're going to be working on that 302 again. Next steps coming up. All right, so working on the 302. We got all the clearances checked. We got our bearing clearance, our main bearing clearance is good. We did our rod bearing clearances a while ago. We got our piston rings filed. They're good to go. You guys seen that on the last video on the 302 setup. We got our frost plugs ready to go, or our core plugs, oil galley plugs, and we got our 302. We got the block. It is washed. I actually lost the footage of that. I had a time lapse of what I was doing there for washing it, but basically all I'm doing, I got a pail that I fill up with hot water and some soap. I just use like some Dawn lemon or whatever it is. It works, it does the job well for me. And then we got these brushes, I think they're Moroso brushes, and we use that and we brush out all the cylinders. You got different size brushes and you get down on every oil galley passage, through all of them, the lifter bores underneath, cam bearing tunnel, basically every single passage on the block gets touched by a brush. And yeah, brush it out, wash it, brush it out, wash it, or rinse it, and just repeat and just keep doing that over and over until it's clean. And rinse everything off so there's no soapy water left anywhere. And then after that, very important guys, very important, it's gonna rust fast. All your machine surfaces, you leave them alone wet like that, you can say goodbye to your finish. It's gonna be gone. It's gonna rust fast. So what I do is I actually use just some WD-40 and an air hose. So I use the two, start blowing it off, spray with WD-40, and I just keep hitting it over and over and over like that. And I use some rags or shop towel and wipe out the cylinders, wipe out all the machine surfaces, and just keep doing that over and over and over until it's dry, or there's no water left at least, and it's covered in oil. And once I know for sure it's not going to rust on me, I'll let it sit and everything will kind of dry up, and then you wipe it again the next day. And basically just keep doing that until you're confident that there's no water left anywhere. And I mean, using the WD-40 and the straw, you point the straw down your oil galley holes with the compressed air gun at the same time, and you're shooting it down. You know, you're trying to hit every spot you can through everything with the WD-40, so everything's sprayed down and the water's gone. And once you're at that step, then you think you're done, but now you got to worry about sitting water in your holes or sitting WD-40 in your holes. You don't want that because you don't want to hydrolock your bolts when you put everything together. So you got to blow all those out. And what I do is I'll tip the block upside down like this, and we'll blow out all the holes for the head bolts as well, where your coolant sits. And then I actually use some thread chaser as well, and I'll chase all the threads for the cylinder heads and the main bores, for the main caps I guess, to make sure that they're all clean, blow them all out again. Very tedious, but very necessary. Okay, you want to make sure you got a clean block. You can't be too clean. So now let's get to the next steps. We're going to install the core plugs, the oil galley plugs, and after that we're going to do the cam bearings and keep going from there. So on the one oil galley plug on the front, I got a tiny hole drilled in there, looking like 30 thousandths or so. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put it right here in that oil galley hole here to help oil and lubricate the timing set, and it'll splash oil around everywhere. I was thinking about doing it into here, so it directly spits onto, you know, the area where the distributor gear is sitting. But if you do here, you're going to lubricate your timing chain, and engine's turning clockwise. It's going to end up splashing that side of everything anyway. So that's actually where I did it on the 408 as well, and it's working good. So we got all of our core plugs in on the sides. We got our front oil galley plugs in. The one that's peened and drilled is in here. Next is, I guess I could flip this over and do it right away, but I'll wait a little bit. We gotta put this 3/4 inch plug in here, and I gotta do the plugs in the back. But before I do the plugs in the back, I am going to install the cam bearings. And the reason for that is because the cam bearing install tool has a little spets out the end. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but I'm gonna say it is. We got the spets going on, you know. So it's gonna stick out the backside when we're installing that rear cam bearing. So we're gonna go ahead and install the cam bearings. Then I'll do the core plug in the back. Or I guess, in this case, the cam tunnel plug at the back. And we are going to install some Durabond FP 18T bearings. And these are actually a coated bearing. It's a very nice bearing. Look at the old bearing that was in there. Got some pretty good wear. And you know, I like doing the coated bearings wherever I can. It gives a little extra protection when you first fire up the engine. You know, there's no oil everywhere, the oil pressure isn't high. It gives you a little extra protection there, a little bit more longevity. So I definitely like to spring for those whenever possible. And when installing the bearings, they got a slot in them on these ones. Some of them have holes, but at least small block Chevys and stuff, some of them got the holes right, and they're a little bit tighter to line up. In this case, you just got a slot, and it is on the lower side where you want to make it meet up. So there you can see the hole. It's a small one, and it's that way on all of the cam bearings across the board there. I know if you're looking at some of these, you're like, oh shoot, there's a hole down there. But that's not the one you want to use. That's just a hole tapped for your lifter retainer plate on the other side. So not the one you want to line up with. You're looking at the mains, you're trying to line it up to there. Also, a quick note, when you're looking at installing these, you got your cheat sheet right on the front. It's telling you which position. So you got main cap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's got the code that's sitting on the bearings. So if we look at our bearing, get that the right way. That one is a 1T at the end, 1T. This is position 1. And the next thing I do with these bearings before I put them in, I guess I should have put the camera in the holder, but this lip on either side, I'll actually hit it with a screwdriver. I'll show you what I mean. But basically I'm trying to take that edge away. So I'll put a screwdriver against there, 45-ish degree angle, and I'll just actually scrape that lip away all the way around the bearing. So I'll quickly do that here on one just to show you. All right, so we got our flat screwdriver, basically using the edge of it and going against the bearing this way, and I'm just taking that lip away. I don't know if you can see those shavings come off of there, but what I don't want is to install the camshaft and have the cam knock those shavings in to the engine when I install it, right? So I'm knocking that away before it even gets a chance to. There you go. So there you have it. We're gonna do that to all of them. All right, so I got the bearing for number 5. I got the edges chamfered, both sides, so we're good there. I wiped the bearing out on the inside so it's clean, free of dust. So we got our groove on the top here. This we want to line up with this hole on the back, on the downside here, okay? So we're gonna line that up in there. We'll put the bearing in, we'll put the cam tool in, and we'll hammer it in. So you'll see that process here. that bearing on the cam tool. Basically what I'm going to do is to center it. And pretend I'm going to hammer that thing in right there. Get my screwdriver for the back side so I can hold it together. Push it in and twist it tight. So now we got our bearing on and ready to hammer in. So we'll grab the hammer. And I can see the oil galley here. So I know where it needs to line up with. We'll line it up right there. We'll try to center it the best we can so we have a little bit more room for air. And we'll start tapping. What we're going to do, we're going to stop once we're getting close. We're going to back the cam tool out and we're going to shine a flashlight in there to see where we're at. So that is very close. I'm going to go a little bit further. Get that cam tool back in. Snug that guy back up. And we'll give it a couple more light taps. We'll back it out. Grab the flashlight. And we are good. When you're tapping it in, you also want to make sure that your cone is in here so that way your rod is centered. And let's see if we can get you a visual here. So you can see that crack in there. That's the crack of the bearing. So it's nicely centered with the hole. So that one is good to go. And we'll do that with all the rest of them. Okay, cam bearings are all in. It all lined up very nicely. What I'm trying to do when I'm putting them in, you can see there's a bit of a lip on that side. Somewhere there you can see it. So I was trying to push them in as far as I could without being too far out of the galley or the hole here. But they're all still fairly centered, but a little bit offset to that side just to try to tuck that cam bearing in as far as I can. So they're all good. The front cam bearing does have two holes. You got the one on the top and the one on the side. So I just made a mark on the block itself, centering each of the holes, made the same marks on the bearing on the top side, so that way I could just kind of use them as alignment marks there, and punched it in. It was all good. So that worked out good. So technically, that part is done, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it one step further. I'm actually going to oil down the camshaft and test fit it, just to make sure that the bearings are all as they should be. Make sure it spins nice and free and is all working the way it should. And then we'll move on. One more thing I guess I should mention here is before you move on, after you slide in your cam bearings, you want to make sure that you're looking down just before your cam bearing tunnel on each of them. And you want to make sure there's no metal shavings that came off of the bearings and is sitting there. So you got to make sure you get that all cleaned up, which this one actually I didn't even find any. Usually I find a little bit that I have to clean up, but in this one there was absolutely none. Okay, so I got the camshaft in. It went in beautifully. It turns beautifully. No effort. That sucker's lined up awesome. all the oil galley plugs in. We got the core plugs in. We got cam bearings installed. And we got the ones in the back are done. So that is a relief. It's always nice getting past that point because now we have to install the crankshaft, the pistons, rods, but that should all be very quick, seeing as we have all of our clearances figured out. So that's fantastic. So we're gonna end it off right there. Thanks a lot for checking it out and stay tuned for the next one.